I'm Liz Donatelli. Welcome to Reader Seeks Romance, the #1 romance novel talk show on YouTube. In this episode, I met with debut historical romance author Elizabeth Everett. Elizabeth and I had a nanty-narking time chatting about her Victorian rom-com, A Lady's Formula for Love. And Elizabeth was good enough to play a parlor game called Victorian Courtship Trivia. Enjoy, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hi, Elizabeth. Welcome to Reader Seeks Romance.
Hi, Liz. Thank you for having me.
It is a pleasure. What is A Lady's Formula for Love about?
A Lady's Formula for Love is really a romantic comedy. I think it's a Victorian set romantic comedy. And it does have a number of themes, other themes woven into it. There's found family. There's really strong women's friendships. There's some observation about the social and economic and political happenings of the day. But at its heart, it's a romantic comedy. It's about a woman who moves through the world with an open heart, who's a very genuine and lets herself be vulnerable. And she falls in love with a man who's been living very closed off from his emotions and from his past and from who he is. And it's just a fun exploration of the two of them coming together and how they each have to learn how to love themselves first before they can 100% be in love and move forward with one another.
Violet, who's the main romance protagonist, she is the founder of Athena's Retreat, which is this underground. It's a women's club that has this underground like laboratory for women scientists to explore. How did that come about? Is that based on a kernel of truth?
Oh, that would be great if there was. Let's say there was, and we just don't know about it. I'm going to think there was. But there were women's clubs in England that were like the men's clubs, which you find so often in Regency novels, but they actually didn't start until the very end of the Victorian era and the beginning of the Edwardian era. So I was thinking about them, but late Victorian isn't really the time period I wanted to write in. I really wanted to write in early Victorian period. So I just took the club from one end of the Victorian period and I set it in the other end. And as to why they were scientists and they had to be secret, women were not allowed to go to university back then. Their educational avenues were very limited by their class and by the amount of money they had and whether they had to work and support their family. So if you were going to be a scientist, if you were going to experiment, you couldn't do it any other way than to have the support of other women working with you.
Now, you mentioned that it was important to you to set the book earlier in the Victorian era, and this book is set in 1842 England. Why was it important for you to set it earlier rather than later?
I think I found interesting parallels of that time with our time. I also thought it was interesting because Victoria was a young queen and she was just settling in, and there was a great deal of political upheaval that was happening around her. I thought, okay, well, let's take a look at this time where it's not, there's no suffragette, there's not sort of the things we think of as late Victorian. It was just kind of like a time of tumult and exploration and just so many interesting things to pick from if you're going to pick things for your plot.
So now Violet's lover, or the man she falls in love with, is Arthur. And he is the counter-terrorist specialist who's assigned to watch over her. I don't want to tell too much, but he's essentially her bodyguard. Why bodyguard? Is that a thing? Do you like that whole, oh, he has to protect her, but he needs to protect his heart from her? Like, what was it? Or how did the bodyguard counter-terrorist specialist come about?
That's so great because I hadn't thought of it that way. He needs to protect her and then he needs to protect himself from her. That's awesome. Yes. Oh, who doesn't love a big, brooding, quiet kind of bodyguard who's there to protect you? Yeah, it's an archetype, right? It's just like one of those types that we always have in these novels where we always have like the strong guy who jumps in and protects the heroine. But I do like to flip it on its head. I mean, we always have a little bit of trauma in our heroes too, though. Don't and we like that, don't we? We like, but I didn't want someone that needed to be redeemed. I wanted someone that was genuinely a decent, open-minded, good person who just needed forgiveness, who just needed to be paired with that specific, with Violet. Like they just needed each other, the two of them. They needed to find one another.
The love that develops between Violet and Arthur is really beautiful and emotional. How do you get to that place as a writer where you're able to so eloquently articulate visceral emotions like deep, profound love and passion, which they have in spades in this book?
I don't know for other writers, but for me, they are like after the first couple chapters, they are full people in your head walking around. Like like I know who they are. They don't ever do exactly what I want them to do. Like I would like them to just sit down and tell me their story so that I could just type it out and be done. But they say these things in my head, and I just try and remember enough of what they said to put it all down. So I don't know if everyone works that way, but that's sort of how I work, where they're doing their things and I can just see them saying what they need to say.
Yeah,
But then you go back and you revise and you're like, oh my God, that's a 45 word sentence and that needs to be, then you clean up.
right.
I think the thing that I've come away with most is how much I need to reflect on joy, how important joy is, how comparison is truly the thief of joy. So I'm very, very lucky. I have a phenomenal support group of other writers. We call ourselves the Berkeleys, debut writers from Berkeley, and we are a mix of cozy mystery writers and suspense writers and romance writers. And it is a beautiful community that lifts everyone up. And the best part about that community is celebrating everyone else's successes. And the more I value their joy, the more joy I have. And I would say to anyone else coming down this path, not to step on anyone else's joy, but to nurture it and you nurture your own. And it has made that makes the process so much more rewarding.
That is the loveliest answer I could have ever imagined. I'm going
Oh,
to keep that in the final episode.
okay. It was Julianne Long's The Peril of Pleasure. I mean, I might have read, I think probably in high school, I might have been in a waiting room and read a Harlequin. I, along with everyone else, had this idea of romance that was born out of the 80s, like the late 70s and the early 80s. And that is a completely different genre
Oh, yeah.
than what is happening today. So as soon as I started reading, contemporary historical romance, if you
Yeah.
can call it that, I I just didn't stop. And the other thing I really loved about Julianne Long and other writers like Loretta Chase,
Mhm.
um, is the insertion of humor in it. I love historical romantic comedy. I love it. It's just my jam.
According to etiquette, there were
Mm,
4 items that an unmarried woman could accept from an unmarried gentleman while still maintaining propriety:
okay.
books, candy and sweets,
Mhm.
flowers, and blank.
Well, it couldn't be clothing.
That's correct. It's not
You could
clothing.
not accept even gloves.
Oh,
Like,
okay. Oh, not even gloves. That is
no,
interesting.
no, that was too intimate because it would refer to a body part. Oh, would it be like a picture or an etching? Or would that be too
Is that your
like a
answer?
card?
Is that your answer?
Yeah, yes.
The answer is sheet music. That,
Oh,
that
and
goes
they would bring it to her and she would sit at the pianoforte, probably, right? And play it for him.
play it for him. Yeah.
Oh, that. I didn't know that.
An unmarried woman was allowed to flirt using her fan, as this was within protocol of accepted behavior.
Okay.
What does it mean when a woman draws the fan across her cheek?
Across her. Oh, I know this. Wait, it means can you come here and talk to me?
It means I love you.
Really? That's a big statement. They would do that with flowers too, right?
Oh, I don't know.
There's a language of flowers. So if you sent someone an arrangement of flowers,
Okay.
the kind of flowers you used, the
Ah.
message you were sending.
Oh, I thought you meant doing things with the flowers. Like if you go like this, or you go like I okay. Start throwing flowers. Victorian era lovers used postage stamps on letters to send secret messages.
Oh, I love that.
What did it mean when a stamp was placed upside down and diagonally on the left side of the envelope? A, your love delights me. B, I miss you. Or C, my thoughts are upended by desire.
Oh my goodness. Upended by desire. That's kind of hot and heavy for Victorians, but let's go with that one.
Well, no, but I'm glad you picked. That's the one I made up. I made up my thoughts are upended by desire. Maybe I should write a Victorian era romance. The answer is your love delights me.
Oh, that makes sense because you could never say anything straight out. Everything had to be so coded. Again, like I said, like you couldn't refer to a woman's body part. You couldn't say a chicken leg or a chicken breast because a leg and a breast were, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I was like, what did they say then? That chicken bits?
Yeah, the appendage, chicken appendage.
Chicken appendage. That sounds like something you want for dinner.
The only time that it was deemed socially acceptable for an unmarried man to offer his hand to an unmarried woman was when walking along an uneven road. True or false?
I'd say it was true, except I think that men could hand women in and out of carriages as well, or up and down stairs.
So is your answer true or false?
True.
It is true.
I think it's because it's the whole thing about that women are helpless, right? So anytime, yeah, that would be something that would be chivalrous.
Would you be willing to name a character in a future novel, Liz Donatelli, and she uses the flirtation techniques of the fan and the postage stamp?
She'd have to study something like very obscure, like an expert in mushrooms, maybe.
Oh, like psychedelic mushrooms?
Well, ooh, I wasn't thinking that. I was thinking, like one of those, like she doesn't come out much, but she's got her fan and she keeps dropping it, but she's got eyes for this guy who is maybe he's a physicist.
Okay.
Yeah, I could see it happening. Yeah.
Okay. I'm thinking that maybe she experiments with mushrooms and accidentally discovers psychedelic mushrooms.
Here you go. Oh.
And then she takes them and you don't see her for the next book.
Yeah, she's
tripping.
She's in her lab. She's like,
yeah,
she's eating whatever the Victorian equivalent of Fritos or Doritos are.
Yeah, you just thought it with bags of I don't know, biscuits.
Cakes.
Well, it has been a delight to chat with you, Elizabeth. Thank you for taking the time to join me on Reader Seeks Romance.
Thank you so much for having me. I really had a great time.